Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an NPC bodybuilder. Today's guest is Austin Simpson. Austin, welcome to the podcast, man.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you taking a little time to chop it up with all of us today. So the first question I have for you, Austin, is who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
I'd have to say growing up, I always was drawn to, the Dorian Yates, Kai Green, Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, some of the greatest, back then, videos were maybe scarce compared to today. And they were putting out some content and, that's what we'd watch.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you, out of those guys that you named, Dorian Yates, Jay Cutler, Kai Green, if you had to pick one bodybuilder, like all-time favorite out of those, who would it be?
I'd have to say probably Dorian, based off his training style.
Awesome, man. He Dorian comes up quite often, and Jay Cutler does too, but definitely can't go wrong with Dorian Yates. All right, so at what age did you start lifting weights, Austin? And then why did you start lifting weights at that specific age?
Lifting weights. I quite an extensive past of athletics, competition, stuff like that. So lifting weights probably about 12, but it was more athletic. A lot of my training was not bodybuilding type training.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of how most of us start off, right? Just kind of more sport specific lifting, and then a lot of us kind of just love the lifting so much it kind of overtook the other things. Now, I want to kind of get into your backstory, your childhood, your upbringing a little bit, because we know that our childhood paints kind of the picture of who we are and who we become as adults. So talk about Austin, where you grew up. Talk about a little bit more of the sports that you played, like specific sports. And, do you have any siblings? Just kind of paint the picture of your childhood, your family a little bit up to about high school, and then we'll move on from there.
All right. So when I was younger, well, I grew up in Carroll County, Maryland, born and raised in Finksburg, which is a smaller part of the county. We're more farms, corn, livestock, all that stuff. I was raised, nothing was really given to me, more of a work to get it. So if we went to a store or something like that, young kid, 5, 6, I wanted a toy. You see a toy, you want the toy. I wasn't, oh, let's buy the toy. I had to go home. My dad would give me a bucket. And I'd walk the yard, fill the bucket up with rocks, and then, I'd say, 5 cents a rock. Then I get the money. And then at that time it was, hey, you want to go back to the store? Or I'd have, $7, $8 and I could keep it. So that's kind of how it all started. You work for what you get. So then I got one sister, and my mom, she did aerobics training, group classes, stuff like that throughout my whole childhood. So she was always active in a gym atmosphere, I'd say. And that kind of rolled off. My dad and my sister, you won't catch my dad in the gym. You won't catch him dieting, nothing like that. Sister kind of the same way, but my mom, still to this day, she's, eating regimen, kind of a workout regimen, stuff like that. So I think I kind of got that side of it. And it always just really interested me. So I'd do some stuff with her. She'd show me some stuff when I was younger. And then when I started getting into sports, my main sport was lacrosse and motocross. So as I was growing up, I was doing those. And then by 8th grade, I was pretty excelled in both those sports. And that's when me and my dad kind of had the discussion, at this point, because before it was do it all, like younger, I played football, basketball, soccer, lacrosse, raced motocross, all that stuff. And then weeded those down to lacrosse and motocross. And then eighth grade was, what are we doing? You gotta focus on one to be great. So at that point, we decided motocross was the avenue. So I moved down to Georgia to a training facility, and I lived there by myself in a motorhome from like 13 to 16. Um, so I had a really good run at that. I was a top level amateur. Traveled the country at the training camp. We had, physical trainers, doctors, on the track trainers, sports psychologists, the whole works. So I kind of been through a lot of this, younger in age. Ended up getting hurt too many times, broken bones. Yeah. I think 13 or 14, but it was more so the head injuries. And then that's when my parents started getting a little bit concerned. Been flown shock trauma, collapsed lungs, broke my spine off my pelvis, all that stuff. But the head injuries, I've been knocked out 8 times, unconscious. And each time you hit your head, it gets easier and easier to, go out. And around that time, that was right when the concussion stuff kind of was being surfaced, I'd say. And we actually had a couple of deaths of kids my age that would get knocked out and then go race the next day, and then they'd wreck again, and then they'd be knocked out too long, brain lose oxygen, and all that. So, and we used to, I'd get knocked out and race the next day, and we didn't think anything of it. If I could walk and functioning, then we were good. So after multiple, I couldn't even put a number on what they classify as concussions these days. My dad it was a mutual agreement, kind of pulled the plug on that. We went up. I was back from Georgia. We'd get 1 month off back home after the brink of the season, and I was training up in Delaware, and went around a turn, got knocked out. Well, I wrecked, got knocked out, and then I woke up in the car, and my arm was down here, and I'm like, oh well, I guess it's broken. And we were already headed to the doctor, who we had on speed dial. Showed up there, set it, cast it, and then at that point we're like, what's the risk versus reward? And not so much short term, because I was right there. It was, we're going pro, we're doing this, and it was all not set up, but we were on track. But what was the reward, when I'm 40 or 50? And it's a very short-lived sport. If you're not on a factory ride by the time you're 15 or 16, hopes are pretty low. And then, most people are retiring or getting out of it in, mid to late 20s. So decided to go back to school, like public school, and it was junior summer into senior year. Picked the lacrosse stick back up, started working with some trainers on that to kind of get back in the groove of it. And then I went through the junior to senior year summer ball, and I ended up with, I think, 4 D-1 offers. So I ended up going back down to Georgia, and playing Division I lacrosse for almost the whole season. So there again, trainers, strength conditioning, physical therapists, coaches, all that type of stuff, regimented, working out. And my dad was like, oh, free 4-year vacation, have fun, this and that. And I was like 2 months in, and I'm like, God, I'm done with the vacation, so to say. So I wouldn't, I kind of got out of the party scene. I'd still go and attend. What I'd do is I'd drive everyone to the bars and stuff, and then I'd go to the gym while they were at the bars, and then I'd go pick them up. So I was getting in extra workouts, because I was like, I wanted to put some size on, but you still want to be agile and light on your feet. Um, so uh, after some back and forth, I had a small window tinting business as well back home, and I was, getting hit up all the time for that. And I ended up, I think, right before playoffs started, um, ended up breaking ties and driving home. There's just a freshman coming in, and I ended up being number one on the defensive roster. And there's some politics and upperclassmen not liking it. And as I said, I was raised, you earned your spot. So I go in and I earned my spot, and then they were making me essentially jump through hoops and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what, let me go home, and I know I can make money back home. So hung the stick up. I actually left everything there, got my car and drove home. And then I just called my dad. I said, that's not for me, So I ended up finishing those last couple of weeks online, still got my credits. And then when I got home, my mom wanted me to go, get my AA finish at community college. And at that time, business was really starting to pick up. And I'd wake up early, I'd tint a bunch of cars, go to class, 11:30, everyone's still in pajamas. I'm like, you know what, this not my cup of tea. So that's how the cookie crumbles. And then I took, man, business got really busy. I probably took 2 years, wasn't in the gym at all, just working, 18-hour days nonstop. So much Red Bull, I ended up burning a hole in my stomach. I had to get an endoscopy and everything. So I don't mess with energy drinks anymore. And then my buddy's like, hey man, who worked with me, he's like, we should go back to the gym. And I was like, dude, if we do that, it's gonna spiral out of control, just because I know how I am. I either I don't do it, or I'm all in. And it progressively ended up to where we are now. Now, as in high school, we sit at the lunch table, oh, what are you gonna do after school, this and that. And I always said, I'm gonna get as big as I can. I want to be a bodybuilder. So it's always been something I wanted to do, but the timing was never right until, I got the sports out of the way, and then, I was making some money and stuff like that. And then it all kind of fell into place where, the time is now. You can't really, my perspective, at 40 years old, say, hey, I'm going to be a top level open bodybuilder and start then, So I was like, now's the time, and it's kind of the only time. So let's get after it.
Cool, man. Okay. So before we dive fully into bodybuilding talk, Austin, I want to pull out a couple things from what you just shared with us. Now, in terms of starting this window tinting business, I mean, was that something that was from like your parents kind of pushed you in that direction? I mean, how did you even at a very young age determine that you were going to start this business? Because most of us at a young age worry about girls partying, going to college, and just kind of going through the motion. So how did you come to start that business? I'm fascinated about that.
Yep. So my father, he actually, long story on that one, but way back in the day, he was down in South Carolina at a car show or bike week or something, and he saw someone tinting a car. This is more of a southern thing, back in the 80s and stuff. And he was fascinated with that. And back then he found the logo and a phone number and address on the box, and he had to handwrite them a letter, and then he got a box of film, and then he kind of started like that. One of the pioneers of bringing window film industry to Maryland, about 38 years ago. So he started with that. He had a window film company that did houses and cars and commercial. So I've been around it my whole life. I used to go out to jobs and stuff like with him. So then when I got back to, I would film cars in his garage. I had a whole setup, and he taught me kind of the bare basics. And then I went and I worked for another company, of which the owner of that company, my dad trained back in the day. So he's like, yeah, come on. And they didn't teach me everything because they don't want you to do what I did. So I learned as much as I could, and then it was just practice, practice, practice. I mean, my first car I did, not first one, but the first ones I would do maybe 4 or 5 hours, just redo, because I'm very, perfectionist. And then, by the end of it, I had me and another guy, and we do a whole car in 45 minutes. So yeah, I kind of picked that up from my dad, and I noticed is pretty good money, especially in high school, at legal money as well. So I was going out, I'd have a girlfriend or something, and we go out, 5-star dinner in high school. And I was like, wow, this is, no expenses, obviously. It was pretty cool to have some money in your pocket. And then I eventually found a place up in a shopping center, and I bought that. And then I could actually live. It was residential, commercial, so I could live there. And then built a building in the back exactly how I wanted it: lighting, humidity controlled, air controlled, all that stuff. And then rocked that out for a long time. I thought I was stressed and overworking at the time, so I eventually merged into my father's company. So he took over that. We did that for a year while his CFO was handling, all the paperwork and all that stuff. We were just doing car after car, and then merged into his business, because I eventually will have to take over that. So that was the timing as well. Seemed like, okay, this is time to kind of jump into that. But I mean, doing it from scratch. I mean, I started with a plastic picnic table and $300 and a roll of film. So doing all that myself to where I got, which was pretty. I mean, I had people driving from North Carolina and sleeping in the parking lot, just to have me do their trucks. So that helped me, a lot coming into his business. And then we created a small division in his that I operate. So,
And is that what you still do to this day in terms of career and profession?
yeah. So right now, it's we're DoD, Department of Defense contractors is what we classify it as. We have a special film that goes on windows that secures buildings from hackers. So your only access and leak points from a building is the windows, essentially. So we secure that. So we're in most all government buildings, U.S. government buildings around the world, tech companies, a lot of stuff in high population cities like New York and stuff like that, because it also deals with Wi-Fi and cellular connection and all that. So we can direct, if you're in a high rise in New York City, there's so many signals going on, and we can kind of encapsulate that signal to that floor or to that office space. So when you hit print, it's actually going to hit the printer. It's not going to try to jump 3 floors and print something out in someone else's office.
Wow.
We have the reverse technology that we use on jails sometimes. Jails have their own antenna system, so everything goes to that antenna and then bounces to a cell tower. So what we do is, with some of our technology, we can put on the windows to where inmates have cell phones. Instead of them standing at the window and it hitting the cell tower, they can stand at the window, but it won't go out of the building. It hits the building tower, and then the guards can locate that phone right away. So it's a little bit technical. I personally operate more on the commercial side. That was our little thing that we started. So I do window treatments and window film more. I'd say it's about half government, half commercial companies. So
Very cool, man. You
Yeah,
know,
that's what I do now.
this is exactly why I love having these conversations with bodybuilders and coaches. Because man, we just get to see a little bit of people's lives, whether it's actual reality or not on Instagram and social media. And then here you are talking about, starting this business. It's so fun, man. It's so cool because, like, again, like, we see the muscle, we see the bodybuilding, we see all the kind of the highlights of people's lives on Instagram and social media, but hence the name behind the muscle. Like, there's a story, right? And there's so much more to us than just being, guys and gals that lift weights and flex our muscles. So it's so cool. Now, I want to ask you, Austin, you said that when you were in high school, you would sit at the lunch table and kind of talk to your buddies about, like, I'm going to get big, or I want to be a bodybuilder or something kind of like that. Now, when's your earliest recollection of being exposed to bodybuilding, or, maybe like Arnold Schwarzenegger in a movie, somebody that was like really jacked? Can you remember when you first kind of were exposed to a jacked person, and then kind of more specifically, like, a bodybuilder? Was it through magazines? Was it through YouTube? Talk about that for a minute.
So yeah, video wise, I remember me and my buddy, we used to sit there and watch some of the Ronnie Coleman videos, and they're funny. And then, we get to the Kai Green videos where he's got the fan sitting up and he's eating fish, and I showed it to my dad, and he's like, "Oh, that's, a different perception." And I'm like, I don't, some to me, that's pulling me in. Like, that's, there's something there that I'm gravitating to. So that would be first, I'd say, probably about 16. Maybe a little bit later, especially later than kids these days with social media. And then we were going to a commercial gym there, and there's one guy there who always wore a big t-shirt, but he was big at that time when I was in high school. And he was military pressing 225, and I said, I want to do that one day. So, and I was always pretty big, like thicker as a kid. I mean, I could, what was it, eighth grade when we were playing lacrosse, I think I was benching 215 or something.
Nice.
And normal new gym goer, you go in, you hit the bench. That's what you do. So I saw that guy and I said, I want to be big like that. So that guy was kind of, and he's actually at my gym now still. That was kind of the first exposure to someone that had any sort of muscle mass to the degree that I was looking at, or wanted to be. I've far exceeded that at this point. But it was really cool. And now that he's at the gym, it's like that was kind of that's what I saw, that's what kind of sparked it.
Okay. Now, you said that when you were really getting your business kind of off the ground and kind of killing it in terms of, growing it and making money, there was like a 2-year period where you weren't at the gym. Now, during that time, obviously you were working a lot of hours and things like that, but were you still kind of in the back of your mind thinking about, like, the gym and, like, getting back to the gym and getting big and all that? Was that kind of eating at you a little bit, or were you just so busy that you didn't think about it during that time frame?
In that time frame, I would say it wasn't burning in the back of my head. It was I was more focused on the business, and that part kind of disappeared for a little bit. We were eating Burger King for lunch and doing this, doing that, and I started getting a little sloppy. And then I looked in the mirror and I was like, this isn't, I gotta be somewhat fit and in shape. I mean, I'm to the average person at that point, I still was. And then, it was like shortly after that, my boy's like, he was going through the same thing, because we were both working the same hours, eating the same stuff. And then he said, let's get back into it. And we got into it.
Yeah, yeah. So why don't you walk us into that or lead us into that then, Austin? So getting kind of back into the gym, you said either you're going to do something or you're not going to do something. Either you're all in, you're all out. I love that because I'm the same way. But why don't you just kind of start talking about getting back into the gym, really starting to train like a bodybuilder, and why don't you just kind of start talking about, you know, starting to live that lifestyle and talk about competition and just lead us kind of up to where you're at this point. Okay.
Yep. So yeah, we got back in. There's a little 24/7 gym, a little card access. Had some of like the multi-function hammer strength stuff. Half of it was CrossFit, half was, I mean, very, very mediocre. Did what we could. So it's crazy the progressions when you stand back and you look at it, so it kind of outgrew that gym a little bit. And then went over to Merit, which is a commercial gym, but a bigger, had a lot more options. And then, gosh, what was I? Maybe 20, 21 or so at that time. And then started my fiance now. She got a coach at that time. She was a cheerleader and athletic and did the CrossFit and stuff like that. And she decided, she wanted to do some compete in bikini. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Let's see what it's like. And which is funny looking back, like on her prep, and I was, work all the time, low on sleep and all that. And I didn't know what she was going through at the time, which I now, kind of regret some of the stuff. I'm like, we don't take naps, and that's all we do now. So she was working with the coach for a while, and then I got with that coach. I just kind of got on like an eating regimen, which was pretty new to me, actually having like meals and meal prepping and stuff like that. And then, started seeing some differences, body change wise. And then did that for a while. I knew starting out, even in high school, based on my structure, my bone structure and everything, and my muscle bellies, I just knew I had to get big, like bigger than the average person to show or to look how I wanted to. So I kind of put that first. It was more like, let's train, let's grow. I wasn't really into the competing side of things. I was more so into working out. I just really like figuring out, the body, how the muscle works to the best of my knowledge at that point, with YouTube videos and all that stuff. And then paired with, eating structure, things started to grow. So I saw that progress, went through that for probably a year or two. And then at that point, I'm like, okay, maybe it's time to compete. And then we were going up to Bev's gym every weekend for 16 weeks, which was tough. So at that point, I was working with my dad, and I was out in the field. So I was 4 a.m. It's usually an hour and a half to 2 hour commute to DC, Virginia. Get back around 5, train, pack my food, sleep. And then sleep was very scarce at that time. And then on Sundays, we'd wake up at 4, go all the way up to Bev's, train, and then pose, and then drive all the way back and get back at like 11 at night. And then wake up at 4 and go back to work. So that was my first kind of run for like a prep. We got, I think, 4 days out. There was some mishaps, coaching wise and stuff like that. I was ready. I was peeled. But also I was like, I'm not near where I want to be. So I pulled out of that. And then kind of took a step back. Actually, she got done her show at Universe, and mine was the next weekend, and we drove back, and we both were like, we're done. Like, we're done. Like, just some of the stuff that was going on and all this stuff. I actually got back home, put my work boots on. I pressure washed the whole house, the shop, everything. I was like, I'm getting back to work. I felt like I was too distanced from maybe my roots at that time, which was just work. So it took maybe a month or two, worked out on my own, eat on my own based off my knowledge at that time. And I made good progress, kind of, I guess, like a rebound. Nothing like an actual rebound. And then it was about 6 months or so after that, I'm like, all right, we're doing this, this is it. So got back with my original coach, and then we started pushing it, and he got was a year, either a year or 2 years, just trying to put size on. And then we prepped, and then last year was my first time on stage. So we went to the Battle Royale, and then qualified and went down to nationals, just kind of get my feet wet, get on the stage and see what it's all about. So then once I got done that, I kind of took, last year, 3-4 weeks, and kind of reevaluated everything to see what pieces I need to put in place, and essentially came up with a whole new team of people to get me to where I want to be at. So, and I do believe in any sport, it's a team. When we were racing motocross, I had mechanics living with me, I had a teacher, and then we had, the psychologists, the doctors, the trainers, multiple people go into one thing. So then, I started dividing that last year. So, body work, and then a coach, and then my body work lady and my coach would look at my posing as well. But then I really broke that down even more this year. And it's like, I do believe, unless it's a coach that has 3-4 clients, I do believe if you want to get to a top level, you got to have people that are, the best in that category. If you look at any professional sports team, I mean, there's so many coaches on the sideline. Not only that, so many behind the scenes to get these people to that level. So now I have broken up. I have Milos doing my nutrition. I got Kyle Smith doing my programming, which has made a big difference. That's matched with Milos's nutrition. I got Kenny now on my posing. It's kind of the icing on the cake. And then I have Donna doing my body work. So it's all split up, and I just have to put the work in them.
Okay, now let's take a couple of steps backwards before we kind of talk about the future and the present. Now, when you did your first competition, you said it was last year, right? In 2021.
Yep.
Okay. Why don't you just talk a little bit about, I mean, because there's kind of a big buildup, right? You had that, learning experience about driving up to Bez for 12, 16 weeks, whatever it was. And then you pulled out of the show that you were supposed to do for the first time. And then you kind of took a little time off, regrouped, and then you kind of got back into it. But so what was it like finally getting on stage? Did you enjoy it? Because a lot of guys love the training, they don't love the competing. And then there's other people that love the competing, and maybe training isn't quite their thing. So did you love being on stage? Did you enjoy it? Walk us through that experience, because I mean, there's a lot of years, culmination of years in training and, different learning experiences for you just to step on stage for that first time. So what was that like for you, Austin?
Yep. So going up to Bev's was, I'm a sponge for knowledge. I want to learn everything I can. So I'm like, hey, that at that time, that seemed to be the closest bodybuilding hub with knowledge. So went up there, soaked up pretty much as much knowledge as I could, saw what an actual pro size looks like in the open division, stuff like that. And then, you can kind of gauge, oh, I'm way off, stuff like that. And then, yeah, so when we came back, fast forward a little bit, the stage, that was always my biggest scare. Not being on the stage, but I guess maybe being in front of a crowd. And the posing, I knew my posing wasn't my forte. I didn't really have any, like, I had some, posing coaching, but not to the degree that I really wanted or was satisfied with. So yeah, working out in the gym, that was the least of my worries. That's what I enjoyed. Getting on stage and then being on stage for the first time and posing trunks, you're like, oh, like that's a little different. Right. So I was like, all right, let's bite the bullet. And what I would do is I'd actually, after I was done a workout or something, I'd go pose on the main gym floor in front of everyone in my posing trunks, walk around, and it is what it is. We're bodybuilding, right? And the gym I'm at, bodybuilding oriented, but still, there's lifestyle people and normal clients, to where they're looking at you like, oh, whatever. But that kind of broke the ice a little bit for me. And then getting on stage, yeah, I was nervous and stuff. The whole pump up before and all that stuff. That wasn't structured or anything. Now I know that. So that's gonna change. But yeah, walking out on stage was it's a little different. The lights are so bright you can't really see much anyway. So once those lights blinded me in the eyes, I was like, I can see the judges, and I can hear some noise, but I can't really see much past that. So and I knew Carlos was at that show as well with Battle Royale. So I knew I'm standing next to one of the biggest amateurs, right now. And that's what I do when I was racing motocross. When we thought I was fast, we drove down to Florida and my dad threw me in a race and I figured out I wasn't, but he threw me on there and I was on the gate, and everyone to the right, everyone to the left was all the kids that I would look at in the magazines and watch, online. So with that, I kind of throw myself into those situations on purpose. So, I knew he was going to be there. What better person to stand next to than one of the top guys to see where you're at. So I did that, fared pretty well, and then went down to nationals once again. People, they might be scared of this. I'm like, throw myself on the stages. I got to get a feel for it, see how much bigger it is, and how it works. And then by nationals, being in the posing trunks and all that, I think it's really just the first time you're on stage, and once you get on there, it all starts to come natural. I mean, you totally forget you're in posing trunks anyways.
And the thing about, actually competition day with bodybuilding, I mean, it goes, dude. I mean, especially, if you're in a bigger show, like a national qualifier from, I don't compete in the NPC, I compete in a different organization, but a lot of the guys that I have on here, like the point that I'm trying to get at, it goes by so fast, man. You know what I mean? Like your whole life is consumed by bodybuilding, and the actual competition, the actual like showcase of your body. I mean, it lasts, dude, a very short time. So it's like you get up there, you can't really see anybody. You can hear a few people. I mean, your adrenaline's going so fast. I mean, they get you up there, they get you off, and it's over before you know it. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy how fast it goes. Is that kind of what you experienced?
Yeah, that's a good point because you get up there, you tan, your sleep's like eh. you wake up early again, you go tan. They're like, "Oh, why are you so chipper this early?" I'm like, "Hey, this is my normal time. I should be, headed to work right now." But once it starts, man, it's boom, 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 and then that's another thing that I learned, especially at nationals, is you got years and years of training and prep where all that money, time, so much that goes into it, and you got, if you're lucky, 30 seconds to grab their attention, more so the 5 to 10 seconds when you walk out and hit your first shot. I mean, that's you're narrowing all, you're taking all that, and you got to be on the money for those first couple seconds. And it's amazing. But no, that was a big thing I took from that is, I mean, you got to be dialed in, and first 10 seconds,
Yeah.
that's where you make it.
Now, how did nationals go for you? Did you compete in super heavies then?
Yeah, I was super heavy. So the first one I was super heavies. I think I came in like 242. And then we were gonna drive down more weight wise for nationals. Once again, some discrepancies in program and coaching and stuff. Ended up coming into nationals around the same weight, but wasn't. I think I looked better at the first show. I was a lot drier, and showed a little bit more detail. But it was a good benchmark, I'd say, to know, especially this year, how much size I put on and stuff like that. But knowing how I looked and everything last year, I have a image in mind of what we're shooting for and what we're going to get this year that should be really good. And if I can hit the same weight and look how I want to look, then my off season was incredible. But we'll know that at the time.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit, Austin, about kind of like what your game plan is moving forward in terms of when will we see you next on a bodybuilding stage?
Yep. So what are we? Last Saturday was 5 weeks out, so we're gonna get the was it East Coast Classic or East Coast Championships or something on November 5th. So that's gonna be our warm-up show. I went out to Vegas a couple weeks ago to see Milos, and that was really good. Trained with him. So I'm a very big advocate of in person, with real eyes. So we're gonna plan that as a warm-up show. I was thinking we come in like 80% or so, which we're not going to be 100%. But based off what we're doing now, I mean, we're going to be pretty peeled up for that one. And then, we got 4 more weeks, running into nationals. So that's the game plan. Warm-up show there. 4 weeks later, we'll be at nationals.
Okay. And what's your plan for nationals? What's your goal? What do you expect to accomplish at nationals this year?
Nationals, I don't like to be cocky, but there's cocky versus, I guess, confidence and reality. I have very bad body dysmorphia. But with the team I have around me between Milos, Kyle, and Kenny, I think are some of the best eyes in the business. So we're going in to win it. We're going in to win the first one, and we're going in to win the second one.
And are you expecting to win the overall then too at nationals?
Yes.
Cool. I like it, man. It's you know what, dude? You know what? Like, bring the confidence, right? Like, I mean, why go through everything that we go through if you're not going to be confident? I think it's good to have, like, you need to be realistic, right? But yeah. I mean, if you're going to go all in with something, like, why not have the confidence to accomplish what you want to accomplish, right?
Yep. And based off, what I learned last year and everything, is more of I wouldn't say like scouting report, but it was more of a let's take notes. And that's what I needed. So and formulate a plan after that, and yeah, we're going for it.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I want to ask you, why did you decide to go with Milos? Obviously, we all know about him. He's a top coach, a great champion bodybuilder. Why did you decide out of all the coaches out there to go with him?
um that's a tough one. So after nationals last year, I kind of had a 3 to 4 week period, which I should have been rebounding. And coach kind of dropped off. It was just a little bit maybe a sticky situation. So I kind of rebounded the best of my knowledge, which now I know was not accurate. It did the work, but then after 4 weeks, I got with Milos, and then we pushed a good rebound. Um, I was just searching through. I've heard a lot through the grapevine, but I've also heard and learned in the sport that when people were talking, I guess a little bit negative about someone, that might be, there's usually something behind that. So I did my research and stuff, and he he brings people in the condition that I want to see myself in. So that's kind of why I did it. I mean, he might not nail every single prep, but I mean, he gets these guys tight. So that's what I was looking for in someone that's done it for a long time. Also, someone that works with the caliber of athlete that I want to become. So he works with, as a lot of people know, top guys globally. Um, I shot him a message, and I'm in the serious people and this and that. We went back and forth, and then signed up, and man, it really it took off fast. So we were seeing results, and came out, went through a little health phase, and then went into a little bit more growing, and then prep.
Awesome. Now, Kyle Smith, you said you hired him for your training. Now, I understand that you're formulating or you have formulated a team around you of top level coaches to kind of get you where you want to be. I think that's very intelligent on your part. But not a lot of athletes within bodybuilding. Maybe their prep coach kind of guides them, with their training. Like I know Matt Jansen, obviously he preps people in terms of the nutrition and the PEDs. And then, I think he guides a lot of people with the training as well. But you don't see necessarily a lot of people that, especially on the NPC level, from my perspective, from what I know, you don't see a lot of NPC athletes that have, the prep coach and like a specific coach for their training. So why did you feel like you needed to hire Kyle to kind of hone in your training?
So that was first off, it was like, do I have the money to do this, right? So splitting up and having multiple people, on your team it gets pretty expensive. So when I was at the first show, I saw Carlos, and Kyle was with Carlos, and I was like, all right, well, he knows something. He obviously knows something, So we got done that show and all that, and then a little bit after nationals, I was going through my training, and man, sometimes I'd be in there 2.5, 3 hours doing back. And there's certain body parts that weren't developing how I wanted them to, or I thought they should, based off how I was training. And then I also knew, like, I'm very front delt dominant, and I could not engage my chest the way I wanted to because my delts always are taking over. trap dominant. So engaging the lats and the lower lats was difficult. And I knew that at that point. And, I would do as much research as I could and everything. And I'm like, it's not working. So, I messaged him and I'm like, hey, let's get something set up. Because he's also like a biomechanics specialist. And that's kind of what I gravitated to the most was I need someone to look at me while I'm training to make sure I'm hitting, because the way I might hit that muscle is going to look completely different than someone else with a different body type. So I got set up with him, and then he's in Delaware, so I would go up there when we first set up, once a week, for each different body group. So like when we got go up and we hit chest, and I was like, like this, like, so like, let's do this, because I actually was engaging my chest, which some of my chest movements are a little bit different to get my front delts out of the movement. But it works, and then he does all my programming, the different splits, changing up the splits and all that. And I knew from previous preps, I'm mentally the kind of guy that says more is better when more isn't always better. And I would push harder and harder and harder and harder all the way through. And then by the time I get 6 weeks out, 4 weeks out, I'm dead. I mean, I'm spent. My muscles going away. Like the first prep I did, I definitely lost a good bit of muscle as well. Because I was just, and when you hear people, social media videos, there's a lot of advocates for more as you go through prep. But when you get to a certain size, there's a whole lot more that goes into that. Are you hitting the muscle? Are you engaging it? Are you working at the failure? Boom. That's it. You don't need to keep going. And also with, a lot of my back movements, I was hitting the same muscle over and over and over, not to my knowledge, for the whole session. So I got with him with the programming, and that made big difference. When I went out to train with Milos, I also wanted to, pick his brain. He has a totally different training style. Some the same, some not. But there are, things that he does that is really good. And then we implement them into our programming as well. I'm using Kyle for programming versus Milos, just based off body type and structure and what I want to look like. So I think some lower reps and stuff like that. There's a time and a place for everything, essentially. But based off how it's been going and what we've been able to do, it's working. So
Great. Love it, man. So how far do you want to take this competitive bodybuilding thing, Austin?
As far as I can. So I don't have a limit of how far. I'm very much on health as well. So I do actually get, my CAT scans on my heart, my blood work, sonograms, all that stuff. Again, a lot of money. I have a cardiologist, and my normal doctor is pretty good as well, knows what I do. And then those labs also get, shared with Milos and them. So that's always my main priority, is health. As long as that stays in check, bringing a pro card to the gym for open bodybuilding, I feel that's my due diligence to the gym. They really help out a lot. And they ask my input a lot on, what to do in the gym, growing it. We brainstorm all the time. If I need a piece of equipment, it shows up. So it's a great place. The owners are great. So bring that home. for myself and for the gym, and then qualify for the Olympia, and see what happens at that point. I do think, based off this off season, because I haven't been per se deep into like actual bodybuilding training for more than 3-4 years. So the advancements I've taken in that time, plus this off season, and I would say this off season has been like an actual real deal, as if I was a top level pro, is how I have it set up. So based off that, I think I could be competitive on the Olympia stage in a few years.
Cool. Let's I want to ask you, who are some of like the current IFBB pros, open men's bodybuilders that you kind of look up to, you respect their physiques? What are some of the current guys that are at the forefront of your mind?
Well, I'm sure you hear it a lot. Probably Big Rammy, just mass monster. I love mass. Hunter Labrada, I think, has a really good physique, nice tight waist, keeps it tight. Regan, aesthetic wise, really good. So kind of a mixture of a few.
Nick Walker.
I wouldn't say that's the structure that I want to go for, or the look I want to go for. Waist wise, I want to keep it a little bit tighter. Everything else, yeah. But the midsection, I want to make sure I keep that in and tight. If that starts going out, I don't know, maybe pull back some, maybe take some time off. It could be, genetic and stuff as well. But I would hands down Hunter over Nick, physique wise, any day. Simpson, he's looking good. A lot of the Egyptian guys are, for legs, I don't know where they come from, but they come out of nowhere, and it's like tree trunks. So I'd love to. I guess I'm more of a like piece together a couple different people to what I would see myself as. But mass, fullness, full muscle bellies, not really missing any pieces, and then keep a tight waist. Brandon Curry always looks good. I always loved Rolly. He's not doing. I don't even know if he's in it much anymore. He looks like he's pulling out some, but
okay. What do you, as of right now, I know you said you have body dysmorphia, but maybe it's not from your perspective, but from your coach's perspective, what are some of the strengths of your physique right now, Austin?
Right now my back is looking really good. Legs from the side, like side chest, they have a pretty good hang on them. Pretty much overall holding good fullness. Shoulders are, we don't really even work on them too much. But strengths, I'd say my back, my lats have came up big time. So if you're looking at like from a judging perspective, I'd say back right now.
Okay. So, have you, do you pay attention to kind of some of the other guys? Like, did you pay attention to USAs and North Americans earlier this year, or are you kind of too busy doing your own thing to pay attention to what's going on in the NPC?
No, I do. Through social media, I do.
But do you have any thoughts on any of the guys that you saw at USAs or North Americans earlier this year?
They look great. They're coming in peeled. I know, from what I've heard, before my time, but back a few years, it was, the super heavies usually came in a little bit softer, versus like a heavyweight. From what I heard, was more like the heavyweights are a lot tighter and, more of a competitive class almost. I don't think that's very true anymore with the talent that's coming up. A lot of talent, young talent, some older guys too. I thought coming into this last year, most guys were, low to mid-20s, to where I found out, in the super heavy class, 30s to mid-30s, which was new information to me, which kind of, I just turned 27, so that kind of, put me mentally like, oh, I might have, actually have some time. No, but they're looking good. I don't know. I know Nationals is going to be stacked because all the leftovers from the other ones is, it's gonna be heavy competition. I'm ready for it. But now you gotta come in on the money.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you look at Stuart Sutherland, Mr. USA this year, I mean, he obviously won the overall at USA's, and then the next weekend he was 7th place at a very strong lineup at the Tampa Pro. I mean, it doesn't get more legit than that from my estimation. You know what I mean?
Yep. And it's a little hard for me to judge just because I haven't been on or around the stage as much as most of these people. So, I see the pictures and I see the videos, then I'm like, wow, I'm like way smaller than that. But in reality, I'm told I'm not. So that's also why I need to have good eyes on me, is because my perception's so far off. Because I walk around construction and stuff. To me, I'm still like the 180-pound teenager. I don't see myself, as having, or being as big as I am. So, and then also, once you dry out and you get under stage lighting and stuff like that, I haven't done it enough to know, I guess, like what they're, maybe 2 weeks out or off season, and how all that compares to the actual look on stage and the size they actually are. Height wise, you can kind of tell that sometimes off, legs and torso and all that, but it's until you stand next to them, it's hard to tell for me.
Yeah, well, you're a baby in bodybuilding, man. I mean, he just been seriously training for 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it's been. God willing, you got a lot of years ahead of you. They say once you get in your 30s, that's really prime for bodybuilding. If you're 27, man, you got some awesome years ahead. We're gonna start wrapping things up here, Austin. I want to ask you in terms of bodybuilding, and if and when you get that IFBB Pro card, like, would you like to make bodybuilding like your full-time career and kind of walk away from the business that you've started, or you gonna always kind of do the window tinting thing? Where are you at with your mindset in terms of that?
Yeah, so that right now, first things first, get the pro card. My father's, really understanding. I don't know if I could, so from what I've seen is, full-time bodybuilders, they offer coaching services and stuff like that as well. So it seems like they're filling time making, money from other avenues as well. So I mean, based off what I've been doing this year, I'm pretty flexible schedule wise at work. I think I could, if I have a lot of guest appearances and stuff like that, it seems like, most, like, say, nutrition shops and stuff could be on weekends. So I'm gonna stay in the business. The plan would be to do both. Now, if I have to start sacrificing some time on the business side, it's, understanding. I can make it manageable. I can do, because I'm not so much in the field doing physical labor right now. So I can do quite a bit remotely. And we have really good people here as well. That can handle a lot of stuff. So like leaving the office and stuff to me is I feel guilty, very guilty. So like I went to Vegas for 3 days, and 3 days was like, oh my gosh, I got to get back in the office. But I mean, I touched base with them and stuff. I shot a couple emails off when I was out there, but if I wanted to disappear for 3 days, I can do that.
Nice.
Which is what I've been working on simultaneously with the bodybuilding, is to create a little bit more freedom on the work side. So when when the ball gets rolling, I do have the flexibility.
Yeah.
So I think if I was, because I don't think I'll ever like offer coaching and stuff like that. So without that, if I was just like wake up, eat, sleep, eat, go to the gym, I think I'd go crazy.
Yeah. You and me both, man. I don't know how some of the guys do it. Like people talk about that lifestyle like it's like the golden ticket, but when I see people like that, I see a lot of those guys. I think they're miserable, man. Like I don't see how you could enjoy that life at all. But to each their own, you know.
Yeah, I think it might be too much time in your head.
Yeah.
So right now, I mean, I work. I try to get to the gym at the earliest I can. Usually get there 3:30. Usually get there about 4:30. Get my stuff done. Get home by 8:30. Eat, pack my lunch, eat again, go to bed. So I mean, if I can dedicate 4 to 5 hours a day, I don't think much more is needed. So yeah, it's and long-term wise, that's also what I have to look at as well. So if bodybuilding career goes to mid late 30s, then what? So and business, that's a lifetime that gets passed down. So also looking out for future kids and stuff like that as well. So long term, I gotta stay in it, stay relevant. But if I need to pull some time away, that's what I'll do.
You know some people, right? Austin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun question. Any gym pet peeves?
Ooh, recently the tripod.
Okay. Yeah, you're not the only one. I see that all over Instagram and people complaining about that. Is it bad at your gym too?
It was a pretty hot thing. It's starting to simmer down a little bit. I think that may have been like a post-COVID type thing. Everyone was recording their workouts. Everyone's trying to become Instagram famous, and then they did it for a year or so after, and you're benching a buck 35. I don't know how many people are watching. I don't know that kind of stuff. Or the I'll grunt and I'll make some noise in the gym. But if I'm grunting a little bit, I'm on, it might be my failure sets with 9 plates on each side on hack squat. If you're moving a plate or two and you're screaming to where I can hear you on the Stairmaster with my headphones in, and you're on the other side, like, and then I look over and I'm like, 2 plates, come on, man, like unnecessary. So that, and then obviously like re-racking weights and stuff. I don't know. To me, it's like if the weight's off the machine, it's an available machine. Maybe people don't know that, but to leave weights on, then you got people walking by and they're looking around, seeing like, is anyone on this, or it's interesting because we have a mix of bodybuilders and lifestyle clients, and could be the first gym they've been to, or it's an older guy that's been working out for 30 years. So to get that to mesh, is a little difficult sometimes. It's coming around, but you go out to like a Dragon's Lair, you know, you can, or a Bev's, and you hop right in and everything seems to work simultaneously. Just because everyone's knowledge levels, you know, where they've been in there for a while. So couple, you know, just a couple things like that.
Okay. All right. Last question, man. And I'll let you kind of give us some final thoughts, final words, some shout outs if you have them. So in terms of just kind of like some lessons that you've learned, some wisdom that you can kind of share with all of us in regards to just, you know, maybe the last like 2, 3, 4 years when you've really taken this bodybuilding thing serious. Like what's something or a couple things that you've learned that you can kind of share with us, Austin? And it can be in pertaining to anything related to bodybuilding. I just kind of like always like to ask some questions of the guests just so that the people that are watching and listening, they can kind of take a thing or two away from our conversations and hopefully apply it to themselves and get better. So any lessons, anything that we can glean from you over the last few years in terms of your bodybuilding experience that you would like to share with us?
I would say master your mind. Work on your mind as much as you're working on your body. It relates in every aspect of your life. Training wise, you know, most people when they hit failure, they're not actually even close to failure. Most people when they hit failure usually might be the starting point for an actual working set. But not only that, especially when you're going into prep and stuff like that, you know, you gotta just, you know, you're doing this for you. And it's, you know, you might get agitated quicker. You might, you know, have a shorter fuse, but, and then some people I see it all, they seem they turn miserable, you know, through prep. You're spending a lot of money, you're dedicating a lot of time. You know, you got 40 minutes on the Stairmaster, enjoy it. You know, it's not gonna last forever. It's all a temporary thing. So if you can master your mind and master your emotions, and bring that up at the same level that you're growing, I think, you know, over the past couple of years, man, maybe 2, 3 years ago, I was talking to some of my buddies who are older, and I'm like, what, you know, what do you do like life wise? Like, does it even make sense? You know, how do you, you know, you got kids, you got this, you got that. How do you do it all? You know, and then just, I guess, putting yourself in a spot for deep thought. You know, a couple of times a day, looking in the mirror, know what you're not good at, know what you're good at. You do want to capitalize on your strengths, but you can always bring up, you know, weaknesses as well, mentally. So really just all around, you know, being strong, mentally. We have you know, we have a lot of people at the office, and I deal with a lot of people every day, and, you know, I can't go, oh, I'm hungry, this and that, I'm gonna, you know, be mean or be snappy or short. So it's, you almost gotta separate it. And especially if you're in a relationship, and, you know, even if you have pets or dogs. I remember the first prep I was not mentally, I did the same thing. I was miserable, not meant, you know, just rude, short, snappy. My dogs even could sense that. They were, you know, kind of, I wouldn't say scared, but they distanced themselves a little bit. So everyone around you can feel that energy. So just enjoy it, really. If you can enjoy it, a lot of that will come, you know, fall where it needs to fall.
Excellent, man. I just want to say thank you, Austin, man, for taking some time out of your schedule to chop it up with all of us, dude. It's always a pleasure for all of us just to kind of get behind the muscle, right, and hear people's stories. And before I do a quick outro, man, and we wrap up our conversation, any final thoughts, any final words that you have? Any shout outs? Why don't you give us your Instagram? Give us the name of the gym that you train at, and maybe some contact information for that if people are in your area. And I'll do a quick outro. So platform's yours, and then I'll wrap it up.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to thank, Milos, Kyle, Donna, Kenny, all part of my team that's going on right now. The gym is Anarchy Gym. It's in Knowings Mills, Maryland. It's Anarchy, I believe Anarchy Gym on Instagram. If you're in the area, the DMV area, they got multiple pieces of equipment for, everything. And different stuff. And then also, some hand-picked stuff, some older machines. Really, really great place. So my Instagram's Austin L_Simpson. Yeah, and other than that, everyone just keep pushing forward to your goals. So.
Well, thanks, dude, and good luck here. And I think you said 5 weeks from your first competition, you're out, and then be excited to see how nationals unfold. So good luck, Austin. Okay.
All right, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. All of you who are tuning in to another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you so very much. I appreciate all of you. I value all of you. If it weren't for all of you, the podcast wouldn't exist. Before we wrap up this great conversation today with Austin, a couple quick things I would ask of all of you. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's really important because I release all of these episodes first on YouTube, and then I'll distribute them to iTunes, Castbox, Podbean, and some of the other major podcast platforms. So if you want to stay up current with all of the BTM podcast episodes, make sure you are subscribed on YouTube. And then also please take this episode with Austin, share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Austin, tag Behind the Muscle, so that we know you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it, in which I know you did. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.